This is code.org, and it looks like we get to add button functionality. All right, so we're going to find the on event that corresponds to the fortune button. So what you might be wondering, I think that's, yep, right here. Let me go into design mode and show you what they mean by the fortune button. If I click dead center here, notice it says fortune button. That's what we use to identify this thing. So that's tricky. They did a little shadow type thing that they're making into a button. And so that's what we're actually going to be using. I can also, now if I hit run, it doesn't show, but if I'm not in run mode, I hover, it shows me the first portion of the ID. So on the event that I click the fortune button, this stuff runs. What runs? We show the fortune text and we hide the number, the 9 number image. Let's see. Oh, yep, that is what we do. All right, so what are we doing? Set the fortune index variable to be equal to a random value from the fortune list. Ah, yes, we've done this before. So let's go ahead and grab x equals blank or whatever. And now what are we going to be setting? The fortune index. So that goes on this side. And then we need a random number. Thankfully, we don't have to build a whole method to do that on our own. I'm headed over to math. I'm going to drag out my random number block. Now, random number is inclusive in this scenario, meaning that this random number can be any number 1 to 10. And that includes, it could be 10, it could be 1, it could be 7, right? It's inclusive of those. And that's important to keep in mind. What also is important is that tricky thing about lists, where they start at an index value of 0. And they go, well, let me go to the data real quick. Let's pretend that this fortunes list, which has like a lot, only has these, how many are going to fit? These 5 things. There's only 5 things on this list, just to pretend. Right? Now, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when I run dot length, whatever the list, that is going to be equal to 5. That's what that will return. However, if I do after that, let me say, okay, well then list 5. Give me the 5th thing. If there's only 5 things in this list, that's going to break. Because if there's only 5 things, this is index 0, this is index 1, 2, 3, 4. Since we start at 0, right, when indexing, and the 5th item, although it's still a 5th item, is only the 4th index. So length will return 5, but we need to be careful because we're starting at 0. All that being said, let's head back over here, which means random number can start at 0. However, we need to make sure it doesn't include the very last it doesn't include the length of the list. It needs to be the length of the list minus 1. What list is this? This is going to be our fortunes list, dot length, and then I'm just going to subtract 1 right here. Now, what are we going to do with this? Use the set text command. Use the set text command to set the value of the fortune text element to the value that contains. Okay, so the fortune text element, if I use the little arrowy thing, should be somewhere. Fortune text element, which is back there somewhere. And then what am I going to set it equal to? So it's going to fight me to delete these quotes. Only if I'm putting text in here directly do I need them. And we're not, right? I'm using a variable. So goodbye to that. And then I'm going to say our fortunes list. And then I need square brackets. And what index? Well, it's going to be equal to the fortune index, the one I just generated up here. And let's see if I broke anything. Boop, boop. And do they look random? They do. And just for fun, if you want to test, you can use the watchers down here, the debugging console, fortune index, to keep track of it. This is a handy tool. Boop, boop, boop. And notice it's letting us know what that is actually equal to. That's just for fun though. Regardless, onward.